gentlemen, boys and girls, just like TCU's score, it's unsurprising we're here with you. Welcome back to the 4th and 1 podcast. I'm your host, Simeon. This week's host, Simeon. Next to me, as always, is Micaiah, a.k.a. Captain Boring. And Micaiah sent me an urgent text message today and was like, here's the deal. We're going to do the Dookie. We're going to do the podcast. We're going to do it. We're going to rip through it. We're going to get it done. And I'm like, you mean we don't have to do it this week if you don't want to do it. And he goes, no, we got to do it. The national championship needs to be broken down. And then I just told him, no, it doesn't, because the final score broke it down enough. Georgia plays offense and defense. TCU can't take on Georgia. Game over. Georgia won by a lot. I don't even remember. What was the final score? I thought it was 51-7.
No, that was when they took Stetson Bennett out of the game. 65-7.
Their backup quarterback scored 2 more touchdowns?
Their backup offense scored 2 more touchdowns in the national championship game, yes.
Yikes.
It was very embarrassing. There's audio that leaked from Kirby Smart's pregame speech to his team. Mm-hmm. And it makes you want to run through a brick wall, so no one's surprised that Georgia came in and focused. The problem is that TCU kind of spent all their luck in the semifinal game, and for everyone, and everyone wants to blame. There are 2 people that you can blame for the most lopsided national championship in the history of college football, and it is J.J. McCarthy and Noah Ruggles. Because if either of those 2 play how they have all year, that would be Noah Ruggles, the kicker from Ohio State, if he would have made it. And J.J. McCarthy, if he wouldn't have thrown the 2 pick sixes, it would have been a much different story in the national championship game, I believe. Michigan was going to be ready for Georgia and expected to be punched in the mouth. TCU got punched in the mouth and then just didn't do anything after that, and was kind of stunned about that. So, and that's what happens when you play the Bama or the Georgia when they're really focused, is you got to be prepared to be punched in the mouth, and then you got to be able to get back up and swing again. And TCU was not ready or down to do that. And it took 9 plays for me to look over at Kerry and say, this game is over. It was 6 minutes into the first quarter. I said, this game is over. We might as well not even watch from this moment on. So 65-7, wasn't even that close. TCU had 188 total yards of offense. Max Duggan had negative 30 yards rushing. And Georgia had 600 yards of total offense. So it was a masterpiece in how to dominate a football team.
Interesting. That's all that needs to be said. I'm going to move on. Because
absolutely. 100%.
65-7.
So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else you can say.
There isn't need to. Going kind of back to last week as the mascot carries his squeaker toy up the stairs. Harbaugh was linked to the Charlotte job. Jim Harbaugh was linked to the Charlotte job. They mutually agreed / the owner didn't want him. And now he'll be interviewing for the Denver Broncos job. And what was the quote that you sent me, Micaiah, for Harbaugh?
For Harbaugh, he came out in a statement and he said, "Why no one knows the future, I am saying that I will be back enthusiastically coaching the Wolverines in 2023." And when our father read that, he read that as, so in 2020 after 2020 they made him take a pay cut. And he was making $8 million, they took it down to $4 million. After that year, then they gave him an extension and they brought him back up to what he was making at $8 million. Well, he had the second best 2-year span behind only the back-to-back national championships. And he's done everything but win the national championship, Jim Harbaugh, at this point. So our father took that as, he also said in the statement, after speaking with the president and athletic director. And that should be taken as, I went in and I wanted more money, and they said, well, okay, we will give you more money, but we got to move some more around. We got to, get the funding for it. So you just go on, do your thing. And so what Harbaugh is saying is, well, as long as I get my money, I will be back. And in the meantime, I'm going to interview just to make sure that you know that I'm serious that I will leave.
Michigan is under investigation for some recruiting violations. Do you think that plays into any of this?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe he's like, well, I'm done with this BS. I'm out. But here's the deal. If the NCAA is going to suspend or fine or put the University of Michigan on probation for Jim Harbaugh talking to recruits outside of the recruitment window and buying the recruit a hamburger on an unofficial visit, meanwhile the 5-star with the last name of Owens for Texas A&M said that all he has to do to make 6 figures is score touchdowns. He doesn't even have to do any commercials or have any deals or promote any product. All he has to do is score touchdowns, and people are going to pay him 6 figures. Then something's really wrong, and the NCAA needs to get its ish together because that's really ridiculous. But I'm sure that these violations, Harbaugh's looking at these violations being like, are you kidding me? It used to be that the NFL or the NCAA was more structured. Having a college football job was more structured. So he was everything, all he had to do was manage the team and that's it. Now it's the other way around. There's so much free reign with NIL and transfer portals, and then you have structure on top of that, but that structure isn't fair, clearly, as I just outlined, that the NFL is now more structured to the point where all Harbaugh has to do is go in and coach the team. Yeah, the NFL is very attractive. Plus, he's the only coach, really, in modern football history that has succeeded at the highest levels of both college football and the NFL. He made a Super Bowl. He made 4 straight NFC Championship games, or 3 straight, and now he's on the second best 2-year run in college football behind Georgia currently. Plus, he's got returning people. So yeah, I don't blame him for taking the interview. He deserves to take the interview. I'm sure he's telling his kids, listen, in life, you listen to the offers that come along. Doesn't mean you're taking them, but you're going to listen. I would just think it'd be a little cheap to release that statement that's saying he'll be back and then not be back. What Harbaugh should do, that me and Roberto, not CFP insider Roberto, were talking about, is he should come out at the beginning of the year and be like, listen, I'm going to take an NFL job at the end of this year, but I'm going to leave the team in the good hands of blank, much like Urban Meyer did with Ryan Day when Urban Meyer left Ohio State. Harbaugh should do that so that everyone knows this is his final season, and the team will be turned over to whoever he picks, Mike Hart, Sharon Morris, anybody on that staff.
I was looking at the transfer window because one of the articles that I was reading had something to do with, this is affecting recruiting and transfers, is the uncertainty in what's going on with Michigan and that sort of stuff. And then I remembered hearing that 21 players transferred out of Texas A&M, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of players. And then I realized I think that was in one day. Or in 2 days, it looks like. I'm looking at, I kid you not, at December 5th, end of December 6th, I believe, right around 20 players transferred out of the program, all 3 and 4 stars recruits. All the other schools, SMU, Michigan State, a couple undecided, Illinois, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, LSU. these are not small. I'm kind of going to wrap this around because I want to come back to what this means for Texas A&M. But for right now, I want to look at what it means for Michigan. At what point do people, with Blake Corum coming back as a fifth-year senior, and is J.J. McCarthy going in as a true junior, what does this mean? At what point do you start to get worried as Michigan fans, if we're Michigan? Because right now I'm just kind of tired. All right, Jim. You've been rumored for NFL jobs since after year one when you got here.
Right.
The only year that you haven't been rumored for NFL job was your 2-4 COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're getting recruited for the Denver position, which you shouldn't go to. You should go to Arizona. We'll come back to the coaching situation in Arizona.
Sure.
Because they're saying Condoleezza Rice is part of that ownership group. Condoleezza Rice was big in helping him get into Stanford originally. What point do we start to get concerned as Michigan fans?
That he's leaving?
Yeah.
I think any time that a good NFL roster without a head coach comes knocking, so that would, in my opinion, that would be the Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos. When they come knocking at your door, well, so with the Denver Broncos, let's just take them. Russell Wilson, say what you will, like Nathaniel Hackett clearly was out of his league as a head coach. So they have the quarterback, they got a great defense, they got two good wide receivers. All they're missing is a great running back, but the NFL has
a three-headed spear at running back.
Right, and the NFL's turned into a
running back by committee.
Thank you, a running back by committee. And on top of that, you have an owner that wants to win and will pay money for it. He's the richest owner. He just bought the Broncos for $4.5 billion, right? Not half a trillion, but $4.5 billion. So he's going to pay Harbaugh what, if Harbaugh says, I will only come coach the team for $15 million, and he wants Harbaugh, this owner is going to be like, okay, I'm going to pay you $15 million a year, and I expect to be in the AFC title game. So anytime a team with a good roster and a good kind of future, the Arizona Cardinals, they got a good quarterback. I believe in Kyler Murray. They got a good wide receiver. They have an okay defense. The problem is each of those teams are in some of the really tough divisions, especially the Broncos. Broncos got to deal with the Chargers and Patrick Mahomes, Herbert and Mahomes. If you're going to take the Cardinals job, well, you got the Rams. Okay, the Rams had a down year, but come on, McVay and them, they're too good to be down for that long. You have the Seahawks and Pete Carroll, who Harbaugh ran Pete Carroll out of the Pac-12 once. Can he do it again? And then who's the other team in that division? It's the Cardinals, the Rams.
Makai, you're forgetting when he was at San Francisco. He also dominated Pete Carroll at San Francisco.
And then the other team is San Francisco. So those are both really tough divisions where he won't be able to kind of come in and rule the roost right away.
I just saw he got linked. He's also been going back to Harbaugh. Two things, because I just, of course, pulled up the news. One, their O-line commit said that... One, their O-line commit said he's not worried about it, and the two said he might, if they end up doing it, he might actually end up going to the Colts, who most likely will not be extending Jeff Saturday's contract.
Well, and the Colts, he's in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh is as a member of the Colts. So, I mean, that would make sense. That's more of a rebuild, but that's in a division that's very winnable. The Jaguars just won that division at 9-8.
Yeah.
Right? It would have been 8-8 with the old 16-game schedule. So yeah, I mean, that's a good possibility, but Corum said that he talked to Harbaugh as well before he made his announcement that he was coming back, and he's just coming back as a regular senior, not a fifth-year senior, Simeon.
Oh, okay.
But Corum said that Harbaugh mentioned nothing about leaving and that Harbaugh was ecstatic he was coming back. So maybe Harbaugh is just taking interviews to take interviews, and unless someone promises him $15 million a year, he's going to go nowhere.
So do you know what his current contract is? Do you have numbers in your head roughly that you think he's shooting for that he currently got? He obviously took the pay cut. He built the program. He went back to back. He should have.
So I think at Michigan, if he really wants to a pay increase, I think he's looking for somewhere around $10 million. Because right now, Dabo and all of them, Kirby and Saban and all of them, they're making around $9 million. I mean, Mel Tucker just signed a 9-year, $90 million deal. He's making 10, and he's much better than Mel Tucker. James Franklin, same $9.5 million, so he's probably looking to be somewhere around $10 million. At this point, he's worth it. Now, if I'm the president and AD, and I come back with a contract that averages out to $10 million, plus I'm sure it will have incentives hooked up to that for national championships, semifinals, New Year's Six bowl games, wins, etc. I'm coming back and I say, in this contract, it states you may not interview unless if you win under 8 games. That's what I'm putting in his contract. Because if he wins 7 games and he goes 7-5, that's a down year for Michigan. Michigan fans at this point will be like, okay, well maybe he should just go and we should get a new voice in, right? At this point, Michigan should at least is a minimum 10-win a year team, I think. In the conference they play in, especially with the expanded playoffs coming in 2 years, he's got to make the playoffs every year, and if he doesn't, then maybe. But I'm putting in his contract, okay, you want $10 million? I'll give you $10 million, but you may not interview with an NFL team here in out unless if you get permission from us first, and we're going to make that public.
So I don't mean to continue to add and continue to drag this topic on, but I also totally do as I'm reading the most recent article that we have has I'm assuming is not pronounced Santa Ono, is the president of Michigan. I'm assuming that's not how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, I don't know his actual name.
But he has come out and has said that we hope that we can keep Michigan. We can hope we can keep Harbaugh. He's a great coach. I hope we can keep him. Oh, wow, this dude has quite the pedigree. Sorry, had to look that up. He just started October of last year as the president of the university, and you've heard from Michigan, you've heard from now the president, and you've heard from the athletic director. And here's my question, because it's clear after, and remind me, he's now the offensive coordinator at Miami.
Josh Gaddis.
Josh Gaddis leaving because he wasn't able to make more money.
Right.
We've had this consistent he's had in the past 3 years, he's had 3 different defensive coordinators, not necessarily all having to do with money, but if they were getting paid what they should be getting paid in either NFL or NCAA, there's no way. In the past 2 years, there's no way. Again, I'm going to bring up soccer again, guys. Sorry. The more you win, the more money you get on TV deals. You're getting money from the playoff. The Big Ten is getting it from the playoff, who will then hand it back to Michigan. So there's no reason financially that Michigan should be paying less.
Yeah, and historically with their coordinators, they've paid them less.
Historically. So that was last year's thing. It was, hey, I'm going to look because you're not giving me the money to keep my coordinators. If I'm remembering correctly from last year, that was kind of why he looked around.
Well, it was more of he wanted to scratch the itch, and the Minnesota job came open, and that's in his region, right, that he likes. And the Minnesota job turned out to be a pretty good job, with Minnesota ending up as a 3-seed or whatever they are this year.
But if I'm remembering doing exactly what I did, which is read up on it while I'm in the podcast instead of before, this is the same exact. This was the underlying thing. Hey, Josh Gaddis left because Michigan couldn't pay him. He's the best. He should have, in some people's minds, he should have taken a head coaching job somewhere last year. And he went and did an okay job at Miami. We'll see how they do next year. Now what we're seeing is this SI article reads, who's this by? I want to give them credit. Christopher Breiler, I'm assuming is how you pronounce that. It's German enough that I'm guessing I'm pronouncing it correctly. He wants a larger contract and more pay for his own staff, but he wants Michigan to be far more competitive in the world of NIL. Somewhere that, and this is what I was coming to, the athletic director has been unwilling to budge on. This is now, and I'm saying this, I'm taking it a step, I'm taking spotlight away from Jim Harbaugh and putting it on Ward Manuel, and saying, now that seems to be a friction point. If we have the president saying, I hope we can keep him, he's clearly saying, I have an athletic director for this, he'll figure it out.
Right, yeah.
So it's now clearly a head coach, owner, basically, situation going on right now.
Right, yeah, and that's a great, Simeon, I didn't know that. When Urban
we haven't heard anything from Ward Manuel, by the way.
No, correct, as you stated. When Urban Meyer went to Ohio State, Urban Meyer went to the athletic director and the president and said, we're going to do everything the way the SEC does it in order to bring Ohio State to be able to win national title games, right? And what does that mean? That means you do sketchy stuff on the recruiting trail to be able to bring in the high-level players. Whether it's actually wrong or not, I don't know, but I'm sure it's a gray area, kind of like contacting recruits outside of the quote-unquote dead period, okay?
Right.
Now, I'll get to the article in just a minute. I'm sure Harbaugh is now going after the playoff loss to Georgia last year, and now I'm sure after the playoff loss to TCU, he's going to the athletic director, Ward Manuel, and being like, we have to be okay operating in the moral gray area. Not anything outright that would kill the program if it got found out, but we need to be okay with contacting recruits outside of the dead period. The problem I'm having now with this is that an article just came out that the FBS coaches want to stricken the punishment on if you contact recruits outside of this area.
When is the dead period?
I have no idea. I honestly don't know when the dead period is. I would assume it is sometime in the summer. It's over the summer, I would assume. So also Michigan is facing that they contacted recruits during COVID, during a dead period in COVID. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But the SEC is all for this strickening of this harsher punishment, contacting when you can contact recruits, because I think that the SEC was so good at it, and now other teams are doing it, i.e. Michigan, that now they're like, oh, well, if they're going to get caught, we want stricter punishment so that we can kind of continue to do it in the shadows. That's just what it screams to me. Also, the coaches want an earlier signing day period. They want to move early signing day even further up, which makes no sense to me. You need to keep signing day later, if anything.
So, dead period is periods where you're not allowed to communicate with recruits.
Right.
And there's a couple different ones. There's basically the entire month of August, which is before the early signing day. Go ahead.
And sorry. I think the one in August is the one that the NCAA is investigating.
Yep. And then it's December 19th to the 12th. This is specific for each year. So this is for the 2022 to 2023. December 19th to December 12th. So we're currently in a dead period.
Okay.
And then it's January 30th to February 28th. That would be before the spring signing period, which is basically when all the Division III athletes sign because they want to play sports in college. And then that was I don't know. And then basically summer, June 27th to July 2024.
Okay.
So
you have a couple.
I don't mean to be this guy. But I'm going to be this guy.
Okay.
And I get it. We're so out of the realm of academia. Why in the bleep doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Like these... I understand from a sales perspective. I get the sales cycle. If you have a guy on the edge, the more you talk to him, the more likely he is to pick you. And I'm just saying that guy is gender neutral in this case.
Right.
But that only matters for Division III. And who the bleep cares about Division III sports? in athletics besides Division III athletes. And at that point, only juniors, because freshmen and sophomores only care that they're playing because they wanted to. Seniors are done because they realize that they're not going to the pros after they're done for the year, and they need to realize they need to get a job. So it's only juniors who really care about about Division III athletics. And you're telling me that I'm not allowed to talk to a dude because you decided?
Yeah. Yeah, because you decided that would be best for everyone involved. The problem I'm having is that Greg Sankey, the commissioner, wants to move up signing day earlier because where signing day is right now, it creates a logjam with the transfer portal, the end of season, and the bowl game prep.
Yeah.
No, you don't make it earlier. You make it later. Or you go back to the one in February as original, and then kids can still commit before then and just early enroll as they've done before they added this early signing period.
And I get that we have this whole situation when it comes to academics. We have to worry about actually early enrollment. We are basically, and this is one of the things that's stupid, and I'm tangenting off of last week's subject where the NCAA has to get their stuff together in the next year and a half. Right. Or this is going to go up in smoke in either a spectacular or positive or negative way. I don't understand why you don't just do 2 signing periods for transfer windows. Again, just like they do in soccer. One at the beginning of this, right before the beginning of the season, and one before fall training camp. Okay? Mm-hmm. One right before fall training camp and one right at the end of the season in January.
Well, yeah, I don't know why you don't.
And then that's it. You get those 2. You get basically July and January. Those are your 2. They can transfer. Now we don't have to worry about the transfer window because the only way you're allowed to talk to an athlete, and I think you can put this rule in, is basically if they reach out on a different team.
So I agree. You could make it so the start of a new season of a new college football season calendar season is July 1st.
Yeah.
So I think you open the transfer portal from July 1st to July 31st, right?
I would do June 1st to June 30th.
You would do June?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. June 1st to June 30th. You get all the new kids in there, and then they can do fall camp wherever they want. And then I think you're absolutely right. The other transfer portal is January 1st to January 31st. Yeah. Because all the kids who are going to transfer probably aren't going to play, are probably not on the teams playing in the semifinals or the New Year's Six or the national championship games. Yep. And if they is, that's on them. So then,
you just wait, just like you do in any other thing. Hey, this guy's contract goes until the 15th. Everybody else goes until the 1st. We have to wait till the 16th to start talking to him. All it does is put a time limit on it.
Right.
You have to wait 15 more days.
I agree, and that's not a bad. As me and Robert have said every single day that we've seen each other, the one thing me and Robert always leave every conversation with is there needs to be regulation. Literally, if you just put regulation, whatever it is, whether good, bad, or indifferent, you need to put some sort of regulation so that everyone can play by the same set of rules and go on from there. So why there are dead periods, I don't know.
This is the easiest way. Let me fix this, okay? First of all, either June 15th to July 15th, whatever. 30 days, either overlapping fall camp. I would do it before fall camp. It just makes more sense.
Right, I would too.
And that's for all sports, okay? Mm-hmm. Mind you, I'm not going to be just football here, but we're going to go in terms of football. Second, January 1st to January 30th, or probably 15th to February 15th. It just makes a little bit more sense because of bowl games.
Well, that would overlap with National Signing Day in February if you do
That's number 2. Okay. You get 2 signing day periods.
All right, hit me with them.
One is, and it's different for every state, one is the end of the season, the fall season, for whatever state you're in, for whatever sport you're in.
Okay, so for football, so let's just say for football, it would be the second Monday in January. Yep. After the national championship game.
That's when signing day is. Okay,
so the next day.
Yeah, let's just say that. From that point on, can't talk to them unless they talk to you first. Which I know will get a little. That's an asterisk. Put a thing.
Sure.
But that's the easiest thing. Make it easy. you're done with your sport for the season. You're thinking about where you're going to college or where you're going to work next
Right.
anyway. No,
Yep.
Or you're worrying about basketball.
Right.
Same thing. Winter signing day, bam, for all the basketball players. Spring for all the baseball, softball, track and field people. End of it. For football, it's a little bit easier for the transfer portal, but you would have to adjust the transfer portal depending on each sport. But at the end of the day, that's easier to keep track of because I'm the only one living in multi-sport, right? As an athletic director, I'm living in multi-sport. But as Jim Harbaugh, just to use that perspective, he's only living in football. So he only has to worry about when football ends in 50 states, which at the end of the day in 5 states.
Right.
So when he knows when he can talk to recruits and convince them to come. And when his transfer windows are. It's not that difficult. We already, again, I hate to do this. This is why I keep bringing it up, and I'm going to keep bringing it up until you kill the idea in my head. All you're doing is creating association soccer with American college football. That's all we're doing right now.
So you can make this even simpler. So the NFL, I mean, you can look at the NFL. The NFL's new league year is like March 15th. It's some BS day in the middle of March, I'm pretty sure. March 17th or something like that. From the end of the starting on March 15th, right? That's when all the free agents can sign. You can trade players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can, from March 15th, let's say, until the second weekend in the first Thursday in September, when the first kickoff game is, you're allowed to trade whoever, right?
Right.
And sign whoever.
Yep.
Once the NFL games kick off, you're not allowed to do any of that until that window opens midway through the season. That's exactly what college football do.
Yeah.
I think you have instead of a signing day, you have a signing period, and it starts the day after the national championship game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it runs through National Signing Day, which is the middle of February.
Which is really just the national signing day deadline.
And then that's
all that is.
You can transfer and sign during that month.
Yeah.
Outside of that, coaches cannot talk to transfer portal people unless if they're contacted. So say a kid is thinking about leaving, right?
Yeah.
The kids are not allowed to contact other schools until they are done playing football.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be the day.
Unless you want for what's best for the kids, in which case they can contact them within anything.
Beginning of December. They can start contacting beginning of December because that's when it
makes it easier. I say we put regulations on the kids too. I like that idea.
Right.
Actually.
So you start the beginning of December. The kids can contact the coaches. Coaches are not allowed to contact recruits until the day after the national championship game, until signing day. Outside of that, the kids must pursue the school, and it has to be dictated. Each school has to call a certain number, and it logs it that there were no outgoing calls and it was only incoming.
You call a specific recruiting agent for each school. They all have head of recruitment. That person has a line which will have an extension, and that way you know who's calling who, and they can only call that one line.
And then for high school recruits, my idea is you're only allowed to talk to high school recruits from August 1st until November 30th.
Okay, so within the season.
Within the season, because all you're basically doing within the season anyway is getting them to come do an official visit. That's basically the goal of in-season recruiting, right?
Yeah.
You can see how they play, you come in to get them to do an official visit, and then they're on their way. That way, everyone, the kids who want to transfer, they can contact, and then they can have them on to transfer. The kids who want to sign, they come do their official visits during the season. They can be contacted and talked to during the season, and then the day after the national championship game, they have to sign. If you have those two windows and that into all of this stops. And then we can divulge into.
That kills 90% of it.
Right.
I wouldn't say all of it.
And then you can divulge into NIL, but then NIL also gets easier, I'm sure, because you have a framework for recruiting. You can just move it and monkey it just a little bit, change the goal of it, and send it on to NIL.
I know
it's so stupidly easy to fix because it's really any idea. Any idea is not a bad idea. And no one's just having ideas, and no one's taking charge, and it's infuriating.
This is the issue, is you have a bunch of, and I'm going to go again here, you have a bunch of schools trying to act as businesses within a sports association.
Right.
We have over 150 years of how to do this correctly across multiple different countries and multiple different sports. Anybody who still believes we have student athletes above Division 2.5 can just go ahead and leave the podcast. Because we don't anymore. We need to stop I think this is the biggest thing. This is my one takeaway.
Well, players do get degrees. Go ahead. What's your biggest takeaway? Hit me with it.
The biggest takeaway is we need to stop acting like this isn't financially driven. Like this isn't a sports association that just happens to be tied to certain colors with certain words. And the kids are only allowed to practice for a certain amount of times, and the other time they have to go sit through, for half of them, BS classes because they're just there to play sports.
Yeah,
we need to stop acting like it.
We need to stop acting like these kids are there to get an education.
Yeah,
which
and some of them legitimately are, and very, very good for them. They work their butt off. In Michigan's case and Stanford's case, they worked their butt off academically and physically, and they got free school, and they're going to go be a doctor somewhere.
Let me rephrase. We need to stop acting like this whole process is just for the kids to get an education.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. And I'm sorry, and our Uncle Kevin, who is a history professor at the University,
would agree with us.
I hope he would agree.
There's no way an academically inclined person who works for the University of Akron, who is notorious for putting money to the sports over the academics because they think that's going to get them somewhere.
Right.
They were the first. University of Akron was one of the first people to put a esports team.
Yeah,
a legitimately NCAA type recognized It's not anymore. It's not for hockey. It's not for baseball. It's definitely not going to be for soccer much long. It's not for football. And if women's sports were watched more, it wouldn't be for any of those.
It is.
I don't know why.
You're 100%
been thinking about this the past week. I'm just worked up. We're complaining about things that shouldn't be complained about.
But you're 100% right. And we need to stop pretending like we care about the kids' education if we're not. If you're going to start, if you want to care about the kids' education,
then you have to get rid of NIL and you have to put caps on how much teams can make every year.
You have to. I will defend, because these kids are in the spotlight, right? Just inherently, whether they're actually there for academics or not, wherever you
100%,
they are in the spotlight. I do believe that kids, if they want to go to an autograph place and sign autographs for $100 a picture, they should be allowed to do that. But that's it. And if they want to sell their autograph and signature, great. And if they want to they want to take pictures for $50 a person, great. Outside of that, if we care and we are determined that it is about the education still, and you want to keep that facade up, then you got to take away NIL, and you got to take away the transfer portal.
And you have to take away the money that they can make. You actually have to put a revenue cap on the
universities, 100%. But since that is not what's going to happen, then stop.
Then you gotta let the floodgates open the other way.
Then stop with the facade, regulate the ish out of it, and call it what it is, which is basically semi-professional football.
This is division, to use again, this is Pyramid 2 on the U.S. football chart.
pyramid
So in soccer, there are pyramids again.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
It up again.
For levels. Yes.
For levels. This is level 2.
Right.
The NFL has realized that they are screwed when it comes to competition, and if they want to grow outside of the U.S., they're going to need internal competition, which is the only reason they're letting the USFL and the XFL exist.
Right.
And those are clear. And you can go see who the quarterbacks are on the teams. You're going to realize that all of a sudden, Mike White, Taylor Heineke, and there's one other name that I'm forgetting, whoever was the guy who played for the Texans, all because they were able to get reps and build their confidence in these development leagues, were able to come and be very competent quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
You need those situations. It's the only way that's going to happen. And as things grow in Germany, the Germans loved the NFL this year, dude. They missed it from the 90s when NFL Europe was a thing. It's only growing in Europe. And so we're only going to get... Yeah, okay. Anyway, I want to talk about...
It. And it is frustrating.
I want to talk about Cliff Kingsbury.
There you go.
I got the names mixed around a little bit.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, he got fired at the exact wrong time if he wants to do anything.
10 months.
Because he's not getting another head coaching. For those of you who don't know, we switched to the NFL, and the only reason I bring this up is because Cliff Kingsbury was signed as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals after having technically a losing record as a head coach for Texas Tech. And then went and had another losing record. He was hired the same kind of time Matt Rule, where the NFL was trying to hire college coaches to do NFL jobs.
Well, it was right after the McVay took over.
And I was about to say that. Yeah. He shook hands with Sean McVay once, and Sean McVay was the hottest shit that was ever taken on the history of the earth for one season because he made Jared Goff look like Michelangelo. So he shook hands with him, and he got a job.
Right.
He's a great offensive coordinator. You and I both agree with that because he's from the Mike Leach school.
Right.
But all of the head coaching jobs in the college are filled.
Yep.
3 or 4 offensive coordinator jobs, mostly at mid to low level FBS schools, of far as offensive coordinator jobs those are the only 3 that are open of like 100 and some. And he's not getting a head coaching job. And so we were chatting back and forth with this off mic, and I'm just wondering, that is such a good opportunity. Where is he going to go?
I would go either to, because listen, he is a competent head coach. He showed that in the NFL. Also, the fact that Kyler Murray went first overall, and he loves Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray ran his style of offense at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley is kind of also why he got the job. He also got fired 10 months after he signed an extension. So maybe the trust issue, maybe Harbaugh shouldn't go to Arizona because the
GM left too.
GM left.
It's on the owners now. Yeah.
So
You're
maybe
good.
not.
He's good.
Okay.
He's good. I would still probably go to the Broncos.
I would go, if I were Kingsbury, you made it. Does he go to the Nick Saban School of Hard Knocks? Mm-hmm. Does he go to like a Dabo Sweeney sort of deal? I think he's going to wind up at somewhere like TCU or USC, where it's his style or his version of the air raid. Yeah. But he can learn from competent coaches. And what he's going to have to settle for is either an offensive analyst. He doesn't need the money, so an offensive analyst, or at best, a quarterback's coach.
Which, it could go either. So, another option is he could go up because Matt Patricia is not very liked right now by Bill Belichick, which could mean one of two things. Either A, he takes Kingsbury, or he takes him as an offensive analyst, quarterback coach sort of deal. 2, Matt Patricia gets fired. He gets brought in as an offensive coordinator. 3, Matt Patricia gets fired. He goes back and picks up Bill O'Brien from Nick Saban. Nick Saban picks up Cliffsbury. Oh my gosh.
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury.
There you go.
I suck with names.
But
that
also,
needs to be a T-shirt.
I think Cliff needs to wait until Black Monday which was supposed. Well, all the coaches were supposed to already get fired or whatever. But
it was Monday.
But a whole bunch of coaches didn't.
He was one of them.
But a whole bunch of coaches didn't get fired. I expected more. But you're right. I think he should wait until to see if any offensive coordinator positions open up throughout the NFL. Because the other thing he can look at is a place like Philadelphia, because Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, he's bound to get some looks somewhere because of what he's done with Jalen Hurts in that offense. And that would be a good idea because Nick Sirianni could be like, listen, we're going to run the football here, but your passing schemes are legitimately good with the RPO, especially with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So but you're absolutely right. I think the big takeaway is he got fired at the exact wrong time. But if I were Cliff, I would go back to college. Your offense works best in college.
That's the main reason I bring it up is I think that's what you want to do if I'm Cliff.
Yeah.
Because I want to go to college, and I prefer to go to, like, Alabama or Clemson or, none of these jobs are open, Oklahoma, something like that, and go back and try to actually build something. But the issue is, and you put a great – this year's coaching carousel for the NCAA was very underwhelming, besides Luke Fickell leaving.
Right.
I think that was the biggest – obviously, everybody's going to say Deion Sanders. Of course. Deion Sanders, he's shown himself as a great coach. He's a great salesman. Nobody doubts that. He's probably going to do a bang-up job at Colorado. But I'm looking down here. Besides Mike Leach dying,
well, and
there was nothing really that.
And
by the
like
way,
you said,
watch out for Tulsa in 3 years.
And if you said. And as you said, he had a losing record at Texas Tech. So no big-time Power 5 program like a Mississippi State, who they've already hired the defensive coordinator as the head coach, they're not going to take him because he couldn't even win in the Big 12 with Patrick Mahomes. So he did really well in the SEC under Kevin Sumlin with SEC talent. I just think he should go back to college and be an offensive coordinator because all he's expected to do as an offensive coordinator is put up points. That's all he has to do, put up points. And his offense in college is made to just put up 35-plus points a game.
And that's why that's the type of place you want to go to funny enough, Mississippi State, my gosh, dear Lord, Alabama, Oklahoma, places that have defensive-minded head coaches who are established enough, but they just need another piece.
Heck, he could go to Ohio State. They're looking for an offensive coordinator.
They're gonna need an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, who's gonna call plays? Because Ryan Day is no longer calling plays.
Do we know what? Wait, didn't their offensive coordinator just leave too? Did he get replaced?
I don't.
I said watch out for Tulsa because Tulsa just got 3 more mid-level head coaches. Yes, offensive Kevin Wilson went to Tulsa.
Right. But Kevin Wilson was at Indiana, and we saw how before at Ohio State, and we saw how well that worked out.
Yeah, I'm more saying Tulsa's Indiana and Tulsa are not on the same level as me. I get that they're both flat, and there's probably a lot of corn around, but not on the same level. OSU. OSU offensive coordinator.
I don't think they have one. I think the assumption is they're going to elevate Brian Hartline to the wide receivers coach to the offensive coordinator and let him call plays.
Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. We might have just found the next offensive coordinator for Ohio State. You have to like this video. You have to go back and like this video if we were right. That's the bet we're making with it. If not, I'll have Micaiah slap me live on camera or something. All right, Micaiah, you wanted a quick podcast. We're at 15 minutes after I ranted way too long about the transfer portal. Do you got anything else that you really wanted to talk about?
I know. I don't got anything else I really want to talk about. It's going to be a great offseason. I don't know. I will make sure a podcast gets put out weekly. Who is on it and what content is in it is TBD, but I will make sure a podcast gets put out
We will
weekly.
be taking a break next week just to kind of prep and discuss, even if it's just the same amount of time. And then we'll be right back in 2 weeks, which will be it's the last weekend in January. We'll start to look over what the new coaches will do and how that affects the upcoming season, kind of debrief and preview, way too early preview, as well as keep you up to date on anything and everything that's happening within college football. Well, with that being said, I think it's time to start playing the music and saying goodbye. Of course, this has been the 4th and 1 podcast. I am your host, Fancy Trash Can, for this week. Sitting next to, as always, Captain Boring. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wash your hands, you filthy animals.